Just a quick background on Straive. We are a leading provider of technology and solutions to publishers and information providers. And what I want to present to you today is something which we have been working around to enable journal transfers. So let me get the slideshow going. So we all know what the challenge with transfers is, right? Everybody does that today. A good percentage of manuscripts get rejected, not because of poor quality of science, but it's because they are not probably suited for the journal which they are submitted. And at the other end, within the journal publisher's portfolio, there are a set of journals which do not have enough manuscripts. So the whole question is, how can we better manage the portfolio and look at these submissions to find a right home for them, while at the same time making the author as part of the decision journey, helping retain the loyalty and author experience. And now, if you're going to do this on scale, we can't manage this on Excel files and all those sort of workarounds, and it needs to be something which takes away human effort of management tracking and provides enough data, which then enables decision making in terms of how to build the whole transfer strategy. So that's what we wanted to do as part of this exercise. So in conversation with customers, this came about as a challenge, and we said, how can we build a solution which kind of addresses this? And that's how this transfer desk suite came about. So the whole idea of this solution was that it is a customizable solution. It is peer review system independent, so provides that opportunity that there are publishers who are running two different peer review systems and moving journals between the two. It's certainly possible to do that. It makes the author as a key member of the decision-making process. And that we believe is critical in terms of improving experience and satisfaction. It automates the whole transfer workflow, so removes that effort out of the editorial assistant. So they don't need to sit on weekends trying to look at Excel files to see which came in or where to offer the transfer to. It is scalable. So we started a customer with 10 journals. Today, we are at about 1,100 journals on that same platform, processing close to 20,000 submissions. So you could do 10 journals on it, you could do 1,000 journals of it. And the most important thing I would say is the data which gets generated. At each point, there is data which gets generated, and using that data, there are decisions which can be taken. I'll probably give a couple of examples as we move forward. How does this whole thing work? The whole thing works basically. The first thing is the input to TDS is actually an email. So what customers do is that when the rejection letter is being configured on the system, at the same time, if the editor feels that this manuscript is suitable for a transfer email then is pushed to TDS, and that creates a record in the system. What then happens there is the journal recommendation. So that record bases the journal, looks into the journal recommender module to find 3 to 5 suitable journals which would be suitable candidates for this manuscript. Now, this journal recommendation could be a simple cascade list, a matching table that if it's journal A, it should be B, C, D, E. It could be a ML-based algorithm or somewhere of a hybrid. Now, we could develop that, or many customers have their own journal pathways. We could integrate that. But the final goal is that there is a sort of a candidate list which is created, and then that becomes the transfer offer which goes out to the author. The system sends out an email to the author listing the journals, and there is enough information for the author to go in and look through to say that if they need to find more information. And the outcome at that point in time for them is to make a choice to say, out of say 3 to 5 journals which are provided there, they choose a particular journal. Once a journal is chosen and they press the submit button, the editorial assistant gets an email to say this author is willing to make this transfer. The actual process of the transfer, that is something which is outside, because that happens in the peer review systems. So if you're transferring between the same system, it's much simpler. If you're transferring between one system to another system, it's a little more steps, but the editorial assistant does that outside of the system. Once the transfer is done and the author acknowledges the transfer, we kind of complete the loop where we have the editorial assistant notify that the transfer is completed, so that the system can track and round trip from a workflow perspective to completely capture that information. I talked about reportings and dashboards. So at each stage, we have the ability to track that data. So you could look at what's the percentage transfers, what's the arrival of manuscripts, how many emails have been opened. So all this sort of data, we look at it. So some of the decisions which we have to make as part of discussions with customers would be, when do you want to send this email out? Because the TDS actually gets the email right at the time when the author is receiving the rejection. So sometimes if there are delays, this email could reach a little bit earlier. So you want to time that. At the same time, you don't want to allow too much time in such a way that by the time your transfer offer goes out, the author has already made up a mind and found another journal. So it's about trying to find that balance. There is no, it's an art rather than a science, so just need to experiment. Similarly, it could be about reminders, right? So do we set reminders uh, at 3 days, 5 days? What we have seen is that when the first email goes out, there is a big increase in terms of transfer requests or coming through, and then the next bump happens when the reminder goes out. So it is possible that people would have missed the first email. So if we wait too long, like say if we wait 10 days to send out a reminder, in that time frame, probably the author has made another decision. So it might be possible. At the same time, you don't want to bombard with an email every day. So fine tuning that, it could be 3 days or 5 days, is another thing which becomes useful. The system is also customizable, where we even tried to say send out emails in native languages to see if that improves transfer letters. So you could look at A/B testing in terms of trying to update the email template itself of the transfer offer to see if that provides benefits. So the whole idea is generate that data, use that data in terms of improving, try different strategies and see how your transfer system works. This is a quick example of how the screen looks like. This is a static one at this point in time, but basically this is the plain dashboard. You could basically go into the detail. All the different reports are available. You could download the data as well and run pivots or integrate it with standard BI applications to run reporting as well. So that was a quick curtain raiser, about the system itself. We've got a case study on this. You could, the link is here. You could download that. You could use the QR code to, send your messages. It's as we discuss with different industry stakeholders, there are new ideas which come in. So happy to engage in the conversation. Thanks again for the opportunity.